I'm here with Katie Momo. Hello, Katie Momo.
Hi.
If you want to introduce yourself really quick so that everybody can know who you are and what you do.
Sounds good. I am a launch strategist and sales copywriter. I've powered a whole bunch of launches. I've basically done back-to-back-to-back launches for years and years. So that's what I help people with.
Yay! And I've watched so much good stuff coming from your website and your professional page lately and your Instagram.
There's
Really
been a lot
excited.
happening.
I know. Yes. Okay. So that brings us to today's topic of how you've been able to utilize a VA, either right now or in the past. And I know you've worked with companies that have utilized VAs, and I know that you personally utilize a VA. So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. Oh my gosh, VAs make my life so much easier. I love my VA. She's incredible. And for me, I found that, first of all, you want to find the right person to work with, which I think is, a secret sauce in everything. So I found mine through recommendations, which was great, from a VA that I worked with and I loved. And she couldn't take me on in the capacity that I needed her to. So I said, is there anyone else that you could recommend? And that's how I found my VA. So yeah, that was a really great way that I was able to find someone who was just like totally up my alley, and we jive really, really well.
Okay, that raises a really good point for, I tell people that they can find a VA three ways: through an agency, a marketplace, or an individual. And
Yeah.
so with that, I think recommendations for individuals is almost imperative, because if you're not going through an agency or a marketplace, you don't know if this person has any experience doing what you want them to do, or even speaks your language to the extent that you need them to.
Totally. Yeah. And I've used marketplaces several times in the past. And like I did the whole thing where it's like you would test them and everything, but by far the recommendation route has been my favorite. And I've worked with other companies as well who've used this route. And by far, me personally, just from my experience, this has been the greatest way to find the best fit.
I love that. I love that a lot, because the last person I was talking to said the agency was the best way for them. So I love different perspectives for different things. So
Totally.
what do you utilize a VA for specifically?
Sure. So I have a lot of processes on the back end, as we all do. And myself, I love to have a process that's set up and perfectly optimized and then pass it off. So I think that has by far been one of the greatest keys, aside from finding the right person in the first place, to the success of it. So I have everything laid out in Asana. And I spent a long time building processes. That's why I hate doing it. But once it's done, it's like magic, because it really does open up a whole bunch of time in your calendar and brain space for things that you were just trying to keep in your head running all the time. When it's actually out there and you've processized it, it's like this huge weight is lifted off of you in so many ways. And for me, building that process, it takes a while in order to get it dialed in. And I'll sort of draft it out beforehand. I'll just write out all the things I think it is. And then I'll test it. So I actually will go through and then test my process that I think it is while recording it. Because what you think, you always miss steps. No matter how many times you're like, this is absolutely perfect, and you actually try to follow it step by step as if you were a beginner and you had no idea how to do it, you're like, oh yeah, you do have to rename that. Oh yes, you do have to move that to another folder.
Or download a certain software or something. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Things that you just don't even think about. So testing it is by far one of the best things. And so that way I have everything written down in Asana. So it's literally a checklist step by step by step by step. And everything comes with a video that I've recorded, a video training. So it's you get it on these two different levels. And I think that they complement each other really well.
Yeah, I love that too. And I think the video thing is something that I really push for, video processes. So Katie and I actually used to work together in a different team, and I was the virtual assistant there.
Thank
you.
And
I created many of processes.
Yeah, you did.
So processes are where it's at. I totally emphasize that. And I don't even think that you have to really brainstorm it too hard beforehand. I know that that's something you do, but even if you just record yourself doing it, I know all the processes. Are you okay?
I'm good. Sorry, I've had this cough for like a month now, and it's just like it's hanging on to the bitter end.
Yeah, well, you live in the cold, and I also live in the cold. Not as cold as Canada, but um, have you found yourself like leaning towards U.S. virtual assistants, Canadian virtual assistants, or international, like Philippines and South America? Like, what kind of virtual assistants do you lean towards?
I guess it just depends on what you need and honestly the person. And I think the processes are really part of it too, because like my VA does some pretty amazingly technical stuff, but that's also because I mean, A, she's like insanely capable and I love her. And two, because I've put so much work into like really making something that's like super easy, like incredibly easy plug and play. So yeah,
I
that's
love
just it. Like when you give people a chance to
Yeah.
do things, people enjoy doing it when you're like, hey, like you can learn all this really cool stuff. And yeah, like it's amazing what you can accomplish when you actually like take the time in order to share what you need. And I think that that's the hardest part is like trying to actually realize what you want. Like you sort of like want things off your plate, but you haven't broken it down. And you have to do that like painful bit to have the like amazing reward at the end of it. So I haven't I've worked with VAs from all over the place, and I really think it depends on the right fit and how well you give them a chance to, you know, to have success by setting them up with the right stuff.
Right. Have you ever had to fire one?
Yeah, I've definitely let VAs go.
Was it a hard process, or was it not as hard as you thought it would be?
I mean, it's never enjoyable. You never want to do it. But like you always sort of like lay the ground rules to be like, hey, you know what? Like I really wanted it this way. Like, and I show the examples to be like, look, I was looking for this. I got this. Like, can you try it again? And I found that for me, it was sort of like the lack of attention was or lack of care was what sort of came through. It's not like it wasn't they weren't capable of it. They were completely capable. Um, it was just like the lack of attention to detail that makes all the difference. And it's like, okay, you definitely weren't just like paying attention. So it wasn't like lack of skill,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. For me, that I mean it's gonna be a different case for everybody.
Right. Totally. Yeah, I see that a lot of people are like, but if I hire the wrong person, like I could see that being a hesitation for even starting the process is like if they get the wrong person.
Well, I think that you can mitigate that pretty easy by just testing it. Like just hire someone for a really small project. If they prove themselves there, then you give them a little more. And you prove themselves there, you give them a little more. And then you'd be like, hey, actually, you know, would you like to do this part-time or, you know, whatever continual basis you need.
I love that you say that. Like a big thing for me is like juggling, right? And so if they're not able to juggle one ball, right, which is like you have to like process it and create it all nice and then you toss it to them and then they like get the flow going and if they keep dropping that ball, you don't throw them a second ball, right?
Exactly.
Once
Yeah.
you mastered it, you throw them the next one or whatever, you know, like that's kind of how I think of it too.
No, that's totally the perfect analogy. Like, you know, you can just leave them with that ball. And if they finish juggling that ball and you're like, I don't want to throw you another one, then that's perfect. Like you didn't lose anything at the end of the day. And just don't test it on something that's like hypercritical where you're like, I need it tomorrow, otherwise everything's going to explode, you know?
Yeah, right. Exactly. You don't want it to be like booking plane tickets and then they mess everything up.
Exactly. Like, I need to go to Vancouver. And you end up in Vancouver, Washington. You're trying to get to Vancouver, Canada.
Damn. What made you decide to hire a VA in the first place?
Well, I knew that my time is so much better spent doing other things. Just like not even just like money wise, but also creative wise, but definitely money wise as well. And it's kind of nice to be able to give someone a job that like you know that they enjoy doing, so it's fulfilling that way as well. But I knew that there's no way that I could scale and create the impact I wanted to if I was the bottleneck of everything. Like if everything had to come through me, there would be not a chance.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What kind of hesitations or dominoes did you have to knock over in order to get to the first step of hiring a VA?
Finding the right person, which was actually a lot easier than I thought this time around because I asked. And then the second thing is getting over the hurdle of actually creating the processes. Like there's so many people, so many entrepreneurs I talk to, and they're like, I hired someone and they haven't done anything. And I'm like, oh, what did you give them? They're like, oh, I didn't give them anything.
I know, right? I hear that all of the time. And I'm like, you expected them to co-pilot your plane,
Yeah,
not serve the coffee. Like they can't come in and tell you what you should hand off to them. Like
exactly.
it's below their pay grade.
Yeah. And you're not even showing the cards to them that so that way they can even make those decisions.
Or like peeking inside your brain. Like,
Yeah.
like I can't, like I even tell people like I'm a better entrepreneur than I am an assistant. Like I am an entrepreneur brain. I'm always coming up with different like ideas. And I have somehow been an assistant for almost 10 years because
Yeah.
communication has been really like well crafted with a lot of my clients because they've found tasks for me to do and then like communicated them and then followed up with me. Like it was like a process that I was able to do for a specific period of time every week.
Yep.
I just feel like if I can do it, most people can do it. Like,
Oh my goch. Well, Summer, you were amazing.
oh well.
And I think actually now that you say that, communication is so hyper critical on both ends, which ties into that original point as well. It's like you need to communicate what you need.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly why I wanted to teach this course to people that utilize virtual assistants instead of teaching it to virtual assistants, because there's a ton of things that onboard their virtual assistants, like agencies that will onboard and stuff. But coming from it from like, I've been a virtual assistant, witnessing how people have been overwhelmed with the process.
Yeah, it is. It's super overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, honestly. It's like you just break it down. So I'm really excited about that. And I really appreciate you telling me all of these things. Just a couple things.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wish you would have known going into hiring and onboarding a VA?
Okay, let me think. I can't think of anything off the top of my head but I've also hired a lot of people in the past. So it's not like this was my first hire ever. Like I've hired tons of people for so many different roles. So I don't think so. But though I guess one thing I would say to people is always ask that person for recommendations and examples of their work. Like if they're like, I can do stuff in Canva, like ask to see what they've done in Canva, because what your expectation is and what their level is may not be the same thing. So actually seeing it can really make a difference.
Yeah, totally. Oh, that's a really good one too, because I was just going to ask you if you could give someone a piece of advice. So like for hiring a VA and for onboarding them, do you think that there are challenges that a lot of people have to overcome in order to like make that first move? And what do you think that those challenges are initially?
I think knowing what they want them to do, like having a clear idea of at least one task. I know that everyone's so busy and they're like, I just need my things done. But again, it's like they can't read your mind. So even if you start small and you're like, okay, I've only figured out this one thing for you to do. There's more coming, but like let's just start here. Just like we were talking about with the ball thing, where it's not like you have to get totally invested in this one person. Like just try it out with that one little task and see what, how far it can go. Yeah, testing is a big thing. And also one thing I've typically done is like when I have people, if I've done like a blank posting, and this is not just for VAs, I've done this for lots of other hires as well, is like I sort of hide a test or a couple tests throughout the ad where it's like, okay, and reply to me and let me know what your favorite ice cream is, or respond with your favorite emoji. Like some random little thing like that, because that will instantly cut out, like if you're getting applications, like 80% of the applications that are just blanket applications and they haven't really read everything. So that can show you the level of detail that they're paying attention to.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I had not even thought of that. Great idea, Kimmy.
The Easter eggs, yeah. And then you get some like really funny responses as well. So like it makes it interesting for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I literally, like when I'm doing a bio, I used to, when I was eating dairy, would talk about my favorite ice cream being Rocky Road. and I have a dog named Rocky Road Trip, and I'd be like, what's your favorite ice cream? Like, is it that meaningful to you that you named a dog after it?
That's awesome.
Yeah, super fun. Okay, last thing is, what does it mean to you to be time rich?
Oh man, it means being able to do absolutely whatever I want when I want to. It means if I want to jump on a plane and go to Harry Potter Land for a day in Universal Studios, I can do that, which is what I did. It means I can, go see my family. Like last year, my dad was very sick, and I was able to fly home at the drop of a hat because he went into surgery, and I was like, bam, I'm there. Um, Anything like that. And like, I don't have a family yet, but that's going to be something that's super important to us. And my husband's schedule's all over the place. So it's not like I have to be like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Like if I want to take Wednesday off, I can do that. If I need to get something done, I can work on Saturday or whatever, it's like, it's that flexibility and freedom to really choose the lifestyle and schedule that you want.
Love it. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think that was great. Thank you so much for having me. I love sharing this and I love what you're doing because I know how important it is for entrepreneurs to be able to sort of like give up that piece. And I know that it's scary if you're a perfectionist or a recovering perfectionist like I am. So like let that go, but it's essential in order to be able to do what you want to do and enjoy it as well, because otherwise you get stuck working, doing everything, and your business isn't as fun anymore.
No, I know. Yeah, I honestly think of that, especially now that I'm starting my own business. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is so interesting that I'm like,
Yeah.
what I preach now, like that I'm putting this out. So great. Cool. Thank you so much, Katie. If anybody wants to follow you, where can they go? Because I know that you're like appealing to my target demographic for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want some of my best free sales stuff, go to smashhitsales.com/sweet. There's a ton of sweet treats in there for you. You can also find me on Instagram at Hello Katie Momo.
Love it. All right. Thanks, Katie. I will talk to you
Bye,
later.
Summer.
Bye.